What is your thoughts on this and his era in Detroit?
Well, I think there's going to be some mixed reactions. I think Jeff Okudah stepped up and started to play a little bit better as things went along, especially this season. But for the most part, I think, if you look at what the expectations were overall, given the fact that we had lost Darius Slay and in that you were going to be able to bring in a man-to-man type corner, I think some people will think that there was still something left here to be done. Having said that, anytime you can give a young man an opportunity to go on and maybe continue his career because he does not fit the system, I'd much rather see them do that than let a potential player who has upside just kind of dwindle away and the backside will just come in on nickel packages. So I think it's a good move for both teams. The 5th pick, Lions, given the fact that they've been able to develop players, anytime you think about them getting new and young talent that perhaps they've scouted or that they can find later in the draft, I don't throw my nose up at that. I think that, I'll wait till they prove us wrong going forward because they've done a really good job of developing people here.
You got an event on Friday, epic event. Tell the folks all about it and how they can get there and see it.
I always, it's good, Mike, when you mention that, I tell people about the event that we'll be holding this Friday here at our corporate location and also our brick and mortar piece where we can do Pokemon parties. Now, I know what you're thinking. What does Herman Moore have to do or know about Pokemon? I actually know a lot. I have kids who came in when Pokemon was coming in. I have a 30-year-old son. I have a 29-year-old son. And they were big Pokemon fans, collected a lot of their stuff. So with Paladin Cards, a guy, Ed Griswold and his team, we joined forces because I love not only the gameplay of it and the excitement that it brings kids, but I also like the fact that there's an educational piece that we figured out that we can utilize inside of the Tackle Life Foundation as part of what we do with this partnership. So I've learned to become a collector again. I've started to go even through my stuff. I know we're going to be bringing other collectible things in the trading card place and space and all those trinkets that you get there. We will be a significant partner here in Michigan for that. So come out, come many, come all, and just reply to that.
And you see that is the link right there. Chrissy Zavakar, she is the one that runs the show. It's our little boss here on the side, my little homie right there. Even though she's not literally that little. She's about as tall as me. But yeah, go ahead and hit that link. It's going to be an epic event. Meet Herman Moore and meet some Pokemon players. Look, I got to tell you what, I don't know a whole lot about Pokemon. I do got kids that love the Pokemon, and they got to catch them all. They do, just like we got to catch those footballs on Sunday. So,
hey, and also one more thing, Mike, real quick. I just want to mention to everyone, I almost failed to mention, as part of the Herman Moore Tackle Life Foundation, we're going to also have some of my personal items that will be available, but these are not just my things. I'll have some items that'll be out that are one of a kind that you can only get through us, that I've gone through my little trinket, my boxes of things to say, you know what, I think these are great pieces that fans would love to collect. So there'll be some other cool items that'll be there as well.
Get some helmets, maybe some gloves. I don't know what else you got there, but that all sounds cool stuff. Real. Yeah, that sounds real cool. So we'll have that when this stream is over. I'm going to have the information in the description as well as I'll post it as a comment. So you can click the link, get right to it, have a good time, meet the boss man himself and collect some Pokemon. So I got to ask you about this. We got Teddy Bridgewater. The Lions gave him a contract. He's sitting there, and we're waiting to see what he makes a decision for a backup QB. Herm, what do you think about Teddy Bridgewater potentially coming to the Lions as a QB too?
It depends on. I think that's a good move, and then that would even signal to me that they may still be looking in the draft. Now, I know how this works. I mean, you try and find that you stabilize first because you don't know what you're going to get in the draft. You don't know what is going to be potentially there. So when there's an opportunity to get a veteran player, to get someone who has game experience like Teddy Bridgewater, then what you do is you do put something in front of them. Short contract. Hey, you're here for security reasons, but you know what? Chances are in the NFL, you may be called any day from the snap of the first play. So they're looking at how do we secure, making sure we have veteran leadership, game experience that can be there in the event that we can protect all these new cool tools that we have on offense and the fact that we're ready to win and we're ready to score now.
What do you say to the fact there's a lot of people out there that says, backup quarterbacks don't matter. It means absolutely nothing. If you lose your quarterback, it's automatically done. What do you say that? You're a great wide receiver. You've played with many quarterbacks. You understand that you got to have one of these guys at least to distribute a football, to get it to you, not throwing it to North Korea, but throwing it into your hands.
All right. Yeah. When I played, when we had our quarterbacks, there was always a guy who had some type of experience that could come in. Maybe you gain something and you lose something. And in some cases, we gain arm strength and athleticism, but we lost experience. But it was the evasiveness of the quarterback that caused less sacks. So there's some give and take that you get when you start to kind of factor those things in. But I'll say this. I've played when quarterbacks have gone down. Does the offense take a hit when you lose a starting quarterback? Absolutely. That's the NFL. That's why they're the starters. But I think we all be setting ourselves up for failure if we say, hey, we haven't seen, whether it be veteran guys that other teams felt that were at their end, to a quarterback you may not know of that comes in and strikes the right key with the right components in place with that team. So the quarterback doesn't have to do it all, but because we don't need a quarterback to make the players now better around, there's some flexibility and some wiggle room if you bring in a quarterback that doesn't deliver quite the same leadership. So that's what I see, when I look at what this quarterback situation could look like. So I don't just write it off as nothing.
Ant-Man, you got anything for Herm?
Come back to me.
Damn.
Herm, you've been through all this before many times. You got just weeks before the draft arrives. So it seems like Brad Holmes is doing everything he can to not tip his hand, unlike perhaps some other prior Detroit GMs. You've been able to watch Brad Holmes now for 2 years. What would you make of him from the outside looking in?
I like the fact that there is a strategy. In the past, I think we've seen some times where there's just everyone goes to the same well. We figure out who the big free agents are. We figure out which players we may have played against that gives us competitive advantage over our opponent that's within our division. But it seems like this regime has gone out and said, listen, here's our plan regardless. Here's how we also going to look at the opportunity to trade around the league, to make some moves around the league. And also, how do we look at what's happening around the league that determines how we build our team? So, with Brad, I have to give him just a big thumbs up, because they've done a really good job of, again, just building it quietly without tipping their hand. And I think that's important. And the other last thing I'll say is that teams will strategically make moves if they see people making it in their division. Your greatest path to the playoff is winning your division. And winning your division gives you the opportunity to go. And so therefore, if you can do that and you can focus on countering those moves first, because that's the most opponents you're going to see in a season like that, then that's the move that you make.
Man.
So just sort of following off on that, do you think Brad Holmes has seen this opportunity to win the division now? Because like you said, the first 2 years, it's been calm, it's been calculated, it's just been steadily building. Now you're sort of seeing he's been aggressive in free agency. We've got a lot of the draft picks here. Okudah's gone, getting more capital in there. Do you think they've seen an opportunity? And now going into year 3, do you think that is what the goal will be for them to win it? Or are they just going to carry on doing it and whatever happens as a consequence of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I believe that they're seeing this as an opportunity. They're seizing this as an opportunity. And I believe that they're making moves based on the fact that it's been strategically built, which I think for us coming in, it was hard because there were so many moving pieces to really focus and say, is there a plan here other than making sure that it just doesn't crash and burn completely? And as we start to see these little moves being made, we start to see the evolution of some of the players. We start to see just some small tweaks here and there in the coaching staff. And then all of a sudden, we start to see a team form. We start to see leadership emerge. There's a bigger plan than just one. I think Brad Holmes has his plan. Coach Campbell and his staff have their plans. I think ownership has its plan. And then also, how do you continue to energize a base of fan players, loyal fans like the Lion fans? And that's done with their administrative people and keeping their business partnerships here. So this has been a total piece that I've seen that didn't exist, I think, all at one time, other than back, like I said, when we were playing, we saw a little bit of that, but this is where I've seen more all hands on deck.
I got a question here. I see this in the chat. I'm going to change it a little bit here. What do you think about getting players that potentially have red flags over players that don't? You know, say a player has red flags but an elite talent over a player who may have no red flags at all, but the talent level is a little bit off. What do you think about that in the locker room, that type of players?
There's two ways you can look at that. You could say, if I bring in this elite talent that has red flags, will I be able to mitigate any of the off-field, inner locker room, on the field things that perhaps that are giving me hesitation or a moment of pause? But if you step down and you say, okay, I'm gonna get a lesser talent, but they're just a good, solid person, player, character, and the whole nine, but I can develop them. I'm taking a player I can develop because I know I only have one focus. I have a way to predict exactly what I need to get done. I see that I have the ability to make that player better, not only with the people around me, but also as far as developing them as a talent. I'm taking the one that brings less of those other things, because once you poison the system and once you put a player into a system and they start to bring out it is natural for players. This is a competitive league that will want to bicker and want to complain. And that is the first thing you want to do when you're not getting your touches, when you're not getting playing time. Bringing in the character people are the ones who allow you to develop as a team. If you're looking for the individual guys and come in, they're disruptive, but you're going to have a handler and somebody's going to manage them all the time. Then you got to have those things in place. We've seen people win with that mentality and win also with that strategy. But with what I've seen here, I go for, at this point, I've seen that we can develop players in the thin margin that truly exist. And I can tell you that as a former player, both at the all-pro level and at the rookie level, there's a transitional area that takes place to where you go from being a rookie, inexperienced, to being a solid backup, to being a starter, to being an all-pro, to being once you hit all-pro level, that's MVP of a Super Bowl. All that stuff's still the same thing. It's just who gets the opportunity on the bigger stage. So it's I don't think I put too much into the locker room at this point that is not attributing to the character and also the mentality of this team.
Last year we were at the draft together. We saw Jameson Williams get drafted, and we talked about it. You looked at his film, and you're like, this guy is an elite player. What is your expectations? This is from Christopher Burke. Thoughts on Jameson Williams this season? Now, whole off season, he has got time with Jared Goff, training camp, mini camps, all of that. Do you think he's going to take his game to the next level?
I think he will. When I look at this, there's an X factor that I see. Most people will see Marvin Jones Jr. as being a player that they brought back for security, being that they lost DJ Shark. What I see is, here's a player that if he becomes the right mentor and he becomes the right person with the right mindset, he's going to be a big influence on a guy like Jameson Williams. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a big influence in terms of making him play, because that's his competitor. That's the Herman Moore, Brett Pearman. That's the, you get any one player and a two player, or an A1 and a AB, type deal. You can't play with, I think, too many superstars on offense in today's league, because it leads to dissension. I think it leads to a little bit of competition that's not in a healthy way. But I think he has upside. I love his speed. I love his craft at the line. I think he's going to still learn. He's got to develop more tools. But overall, the raw speed, the determination,